Welcome to Getting Started with Kobo. A Kobo is an e-reader designed for book lovers. It reads just like print on paper. Its e-ink technology, adjustable brightness, and adjustable font sizes, as well as an optional dark mode for nighttime reading, makes reading easier on the eyes. Kobo devices are now available to borrow from SDG Library. Like books, they have a 3-week loan period, but they are not renewable at this time. We are briefly going to go over the basics of Kobo use and how to activate a borrowed Kobo for personal use. If you own a Kobo, you may have done this already, and this would not apply to you. We will then demonstrate how to borrow items from Cloud Library for transfer to a Kobo device later. Please note that you will need access to Wi-Fi and a smartphone or computer in order to activate the Kobo. Finally, we will explore using Adobe Digital Editions to transfer material downloaded from Cloud Library to the Kobo device. Kobos borrowed from the SDG library come in a plastic protective case. Inside, you will find the Kobo device, a USB to USB-C charging and transfer cable, a guide on transferring ebooks to Kobo, and a Kobo Clara Quick Start Guide. Please note that the USB charging block is not included, but the device can also be charged by plugging it into a USB port on a laptop or computer or used with the charging block of another device. When you receive the Kobo device, it may be powered down or in sleep mode. To power on or wake the device, locate the power button. On our models, the power button is located on the back of the device at the top left. Press the button and the device will turn on or wake. The device will ask you for your language preference and then ask you to connect to a Wi-Fi network. Select your network, enter the password, and select Join. Once you have gone through the initial setup process for the Kobo device, you'll no longer need a Wi-Fi connection to use it. You'll only need a Wi-Fi connection if you plan on downloading items from the Kobo store. The Kobo will check for and install any updates as an automatic process. Depending on the strength of your Wi-Fi network, this could take several minutes. Once any pending updates are completed, your Kobo will require activation. There are two options to activate the Kobo, via scanning the QR code with your smartphone or going to kobo.com/activate in a web browser. First, we'll demonstrate using your smartphone. Open your phone's camera app and position the camera over the Kobo device to capture the QR code. Once the smartphone registers the QR code, a link should appear. You can select it to proceed to activation. Once the link is followed, you'll be brought to the Kobo sign-in screen. If you already have an account, simply enter your email address and password and hit Continue. Otherwise, you'll need to create a new account by selecting the Create New Account option. Here, you'll be prompted to enter your email address and desired password. You'll also have to verify your email, and then you'll be ready to use the Kobo. If you are using a web browser to activate the Kobo device, enter kobo.com/activate into your web browser. This will bring you to the Kobo activation page. You'll be prompted to enter a code from the Kobo eReader, which should be displayed on the Kobo's screen. Once you've entered the code, you'll be prompted to sign in. Again, if you already have a Kobo account, you simply enter your email and password. If you have forgotten your password, you have the option available to reset password. This sends an email to the email account that you registered with, and you'll be able to reset your password and regain access to your account. You can also opt to sign in with Facebook or Google, or select more options to see additional sign-in options that may be available to you. If you are using a Kobo for the first time, select Create Account. You'll then be prompted to enter and confirm your email address and set a password. The security requirements are listed below the password field. Once you have entered all the relevant information, you can hit Continue. Kobo will now send you an email to verify your email address. If you don't see it in your inbox, ensure that you typed your email correctly, have checked your spam folder, and wait 15 minutes. If you still don't receive the email, you can request that it is resent. Once you click the activation link in the email, your Kobo will activate. You may be prompted to add a payment method, but this can be skipped. This option could be used if you intended to purchase items from the Kobo store. However, it is not necessary. Using library digital services will give you access to a wide range of books. Please note that if you do opt to enter a payment method and purchase content, it is only associated to your Kobo account and will not be accessible to other users once you have signed out of the Kobo. You can now return to your Kobo device. It may display a Kobo Plus screen. Kobo Plus is a paid subscription service that allows you to read Kobo store materials. It is associated to individual Kobo accounts and is not associated with any library use. This prompt can be ignored and exited out of by selecting the X in the top right corner. You are now on the home screen of the Kobo device. You should be able to take a quick tour of the device using the tutorial located on the home page. You'll also see several navigation options on the bottom bar of the Kobo, including Home, My Books, Discover, and more. By selecting My Books, you would see any titles that have been downloaded and transferred from Cloud Library or purchased from the Kobo store. At this time, you'll see there are no books on this Kobo device. Selecting Discover will bring you to the Kobo store. These items require payment for you to use. Some Kobos may also give you a library option or invite you to use Overdrive. As STG Library uses Cloud Library as its e-content platform, direct download from the library is not possible at this time. We'll explore how to transfer material onto a Kobo device in our next video segment. Finally, under the More option, you'll see things such as wish lists, activity, and settings. Here, we're going to draw your attention to settings. This is where you can sign out of the Kobo once you need to return it to the library, manage your Wi-Fi connection, and change your reading settings. If you select Reading Settings, you'll see that it includes a variety of options, including displaying how long you have left in the book, page numbers, entering dark mode for easier nighttime reading, and even how you turn pages on the device. You can go back into the settings by clicking the back arrow at the top left, or exit entirely by hitting the X in the top right corner of the screen. Now let's go back to books and prepare to borrow some ebooks. Now we are ready to borrow ebooks or e-audiobooks for transfer to the Kobo device. To borrow items from STG Library to use on your Kobo, you will need access to a computer or laptop with an internet connection and with Adobe Digital Editions installed. For more information on installing Adobe Digital Editions, you can check the pamphlet included with our circulating Kobos, or check the Frequently Asked Questions section of our website. You can also use our public computers in branch to transfer materials from Cloud Library to a Kobo, as all of our public computers have Adobe Digital Editions installed. To borrow items, first navigate to our website at sdglibrary.ca. Once you are on our homepage, you can find Cloud Library by navigating to Digital Library. Click and it will bring you to a list of all our available digital services. Cloud Library is located under the Read heading. You can click the image and you'll be brought to SDG Library's Cloud Library collection. Here you will see items that are available to borrow or to place holds on. Before you are able to borrow or place holds, you'll need to log in with your SDG library card. Your library card ID is the barcode located on the back of your library card. Your library card PIN is usually the last 4 digits of your phone number. If you are having issues accessing your account, contact your local branch for assistance. Once you log in, you'll be able to begin borrowing items. You might notice that on the covers of the books there are different icons, blue headphones and pink books. These indicate audiobooks and ebooks respectively. You can listen to e-audiobooks on Kobo, however, you will need a speaker or headphones to do so. Today, we're going to look specifically for an ebook. We could just look for the pink icon, but to make it easier to look for an item that we want to borrow, we're going to use the Format filter and select ebook to narrow the selection down. If you're looking for a specific item, you can use the search bar at the top of the page to find it. If you search for the title, once you locate it, select the green Borrow button. The book is now out on your Cloud Library account. You should now be able to read it on your browser.
To access the title for download, you can simply click the cover image of the book. There, you should see the Download for Offline Reading option. If you selected by browsing the main page, to borrow a book, simply click the title. This will bring you to more information about that title, including a book summary. From here, you'll be able to select Borrow. Again, once the book is borrowed, you can read it in your browser. The option to download for offline reading should also appear where the green Borrow button was. You can also view all titles out to your library card by clicking My Books on the top bar. Once all your titles are displayed, you can download items for offline reading by clicking the three dots next to Read and selecting Download for Offline Reading. Downloaded items will appear in your computer's Downloads, Saved Items, or wherever you have set your downloads to save themselves. You will only be able to access titles downloaded in this way with Adobe Digital Editions. Now we are ready to use Adobe Digital Editions to transfer items downloaded for offline reading from our computer to the Kobo device.
As a reminder to transfer items from Cloud Library to your Kobo device, you'll need Adobe Digital Editions downloaded on your computer or laptop. All of our public access computers have this software installed, so you can always visit a branch to transfer materials to the Kobo device. For information on downloading Adobe Digital Editions, please explore the pamphlet in our borrowable Kobos or visit the Frequently Asked Questions section of our website. We're going to begin by connecting our Kobo device to our computer. Plug in the USB-C to the Kobo device and connect the USB end of the wire to an empty USB port in your computer. Once the device is plugged in and recognized by your computer, the Kobo will prompt you to allow the connection. Press Connect and you're ready to begin the transfer process on the computer. To begin, open Adobe Digital Editions. Once open, you should see your Kobo there. If you don't, or you have yet to connect it, ensure that the USB cable is connected properly and try unplugging and plugging it back in. Ensure that you select Connect on the Kobo when prompted. Your Kobo should now display under the device heading in Adobe Digital Editions. You can also see bookshelves, but will note that all of them are empty as we have not yet added any content for transfer. Before you can open items to read or transfer items to your Kobo, you will need to authorize Adobe Digital Editions. To do so, click the Help tab and select Authorize Computer. Here, you'll see a space to enter your Adobe ID and password. At the bottom is a checkbox to authorize the computer without an ID. If you select this box, you will be able to read downloaded material on your computer or laptop, but you will not be able to transfer content to a Kobo device, so you must use an ID to sign in. If you don't have an Adobe ID, select Create Adobe ID. This will bring you to create an account online. You can use social media accounts or email accounts such as Google, Facebook, or Apple to sign in. You can also use an email address and create a password. Once you have entered your email and a password that meets the Adobe password criteria, you can select Continue. Adobe will now ask for your name and date of birth. This is collected for account verification purposes if you ever forget your password. There is also a checkbox on this page that signs your email address up for Adobe promotional content. If you do not wish to receive emails, leave this box unchecked. Once your account is created, you can exit out of the web browser and return to Adobe Digital Editions. If you think you have forgotten your password, or you think you may have already created an account, you can select Forgotten Password to access the Adobe Sign-In Help page. If you request a password reset, you will need access to the email address associated with your Adobe Digital ID in order to verify that it is you. We can now return to Adobe Digital Editions and enter our account information and authorize our computer. Ensure that the ebook vendor is set to Adobe ID. You should see an authorization message, which means we will now be able to transfer our reading materials. First, we need to add our items to our bookshelves. To do so, select File, Add to Library. You'll want to ensure that you are in the folder or location where you saved your downloaded items. The file type is also important. If you don't see the title that you downloaded, you might need to change the file type in the bottom right of the window. Right now, we can see that the file type is set to eBooks. Clicking the drop-down will allow us to select Adobe Content Server Message, and now we can see the file that was downloaded for transfer. Select the files that you want and hit Open. The item now downloads into Adobe Digital Editions and adds itself to your bookshelf. The item may automatically open for reading at this time. If it does, simply hit Library in the top left corner to go back to the shelf. Now you can see the item as well as a small banner that indicates how long you have left on your loan period through the library. To move the book from Adobe Digital Editions to the Kobo, we have two options. First, we can right-click the title and select Copy to Computer/Device. Since in this case the item is on our computer, the only option is to transfer to the Kobo eReader. However, items can also be transferred from Kobos to computers for reading on Adobe Digital Editions. We can also click and drag the item over to the device's sidebar and hover over the device we want to transfer it to. You'll know it is in the right place because the device will highlight in a darker blue and a small green plus sign will appear. Releasing the item while hovering over the device begins the transfer process. Selecting the device from the menu on the left side will allow you to see items that are on the Kobo. Now that we have transferred an item, it appears in both our bookshelf on Adobe Digital Editions and as a file on the Kobo. If you ever try to open a title in Adobe Digital Editions without having authorized the computer, you may see an authorization needed prompt. A small red warning symbol will also appear on the corner of the title. Hitting Continue will bring you to the authorization sign-in, at which point you can enter the credentials. You can now disconnect the Kobo device. You can do this from your File Explorer, finding the Kobo eReader as a hardware, right-clicking it, and selecting Eject from the menu. You may see a Safe to Remove Hardware prompt, which indicates that your Kobo is safe to disconnect. However, this step is not necessary, and the device can simply be unplugged. When you look at your Kobo, you may not immediately see your book on the home screen. Navigate to My Books on the bottom menu and select it. Once you do, you should see all items on your Kobo. Selecting the downloaded item will open the material for reading. Now you can tap or swipe to turn pages depending on what your reading settings are. To return to all books, simply tap once in the middle of the screen and hit Back to My Books in the top left. Now, if you go to your home page, your title should be displayed with reading progress shown. Now that we've explored how to borrow items from Cloud Library and transfer them to the Kobo with Adobe Digital Editions, we're going to look at how to remove downloads from the Kobo as if to return it to the library. If you own your own Kobo device, you might still want to know how to remove downloads, but you don't have to follow all these steps as it prepares the Kobo to go back into circulation. Once you are done reading your titles and want to remove them from the Kobo device, there are a couple of options available. Return to My Books and select the three dots on the right-hand side of the title you want to remove. This will bring up a menu and you can hit Remove. Please note that removing the download from the Kobo does not return it to Cloud Library, and the item will remain out on your library account. The item will return itself at the end of the loan period, or you can manage your Cloud Library account online. You can also navigate to the More menu and select Settings. Here you will see a range of options. Right now, we're looking for Manage Downloads. You'll see the total number of imported items and an option to automatically remove books once you mark them as finished. You can also use imported items to remove all. Since we are returning this device to the library, we're going to proceed to remove all downloads. The Kobo will confirm that you want to remove the imported items. Select Remove and close out of the settings using the X in the top right corner and navigate back to My Books. You'll now see that there are no books on the Kobo device. If you have borrowed a Kindle from SDG Library, before you return the device, you should remove all downloaded items. If you sign out of your account, the next user would not be able to open or read any of the titles you downloaded, but they would be able to see what you have been reading. The final step to returning your Kobo is ensuring that you sign out of your Kobo account. This resets the Kobo to ensure that your personal information, such as your Kobo account email and any payment information you may have used if you choose to use the Kobo store, is not accessible to future users. To sign out, select More, go into Settings, and then Accounts. At the top, you should see your email with a Sign Out option on the right-hand side. Select this option and verify that you want to sign out. The Kobo will now sign you out and return the device to its setup state. You'll know that this was a success when you see the language selection screen. Please note that staff will check to ensure that downloaded items are removed and that your Kobo account is signed out before Please note that staff will check to ensure that downloaded items are removed and that your Kobo account is signed out before returning the device to circulation, so if you forget, your privacy will still be protected. If you are using a shared computer at home, you may also want to erase the Adobe Digital Editions authorization. On our public computers, this information will not be stored once you log out, so there is no need to deauthorize. To erase authorization on a computer, select Help and Erase Authorization. Adobe Digital Editions will prompt you to enter your Adobe ID password and then confirm that you want to proceed. Even though items still show on your bookshelf, you will not be able to read them until the computer is authorized again. Thank you for watching our video about how to use SDG Library's circulating Kobos, how to download items from Cloud Library to Adobe Digital Editions, and how to transfer items from Adobe Digital Editions to your Kobo. We hope you have found this video useful. If you have any further questions, please reach out to branch staff. Thank you.